Okay, I think we're recording. Hi, Skylar. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you, Fahim?
Good, good. Hi guys. This is STEM Talk, and this is episode 3 with me, Fahim, and we have a new guest called Skylar. Skylar is from Metastage, and she's gonna introduce herself right now. So go ahead, Skylar.
Thank you so much, Fahim. I'm Skylar Sweetman. I'm the current head of production at Metastage Studios in Los Angeles, California. And I'm so pleased to be on this podcast talking about STEM and shaping careers for all kinds of folks who maybe hadn't thought about it before, but, you know, could be
Absolutely,
encouraged to go
absolutely.
for it.
So how did you come up with Metastage, or how did you like join Metastage?
Well, I actually before Metastage, I was working at a company called Lightstage at Otoy, and that company focused on high resolution facial scanning for a more traditional visual effects pipeline for film and television. And, I thought that they were doing such interesting work. They did everything from Grand Moff Tarkin in the latest Star Wars series to stuff for just television, gaming. And I think after a few years, I kind of was ready to sort of go into something a little bit more immersive. Um, yeah, just to go into
Or
something. Yeah, that's a fact. That's okay. To go into something that was like more inside of the immersive XR space, and I started reaching out, and I ended up getting connected to this person, Christina Heller, and she said, she was like, "I'm starting this new company. It's going to be all volumetric capture, and who knows what else." And do you want to join me? And I was her first hire, and 3 years later, here we are.
wow. Yeah, I added her on LinkedIn 3 years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was completely random because I was in college at that time, and I wanted her as a speaker because that was my job as a student is bring on speakers from Google, Amazon, and she was one of the person I reached out to. So that's
Yeah.
incredible. Um, so wow, very very nice. What else do I want to ask you about yourself? Where are you from? Like, where were you born, raised? What's your story?
I'm from Los Angeles. I grew up, for any locals, I grew up in the Valley. And
Northridge guy, right here. Yeah, Valley
yeah,
boy, right here. Yeah.
yeah, I grew up in Van Nuys.
Oh, nice. So yeah,
Yeah.
very close, very close. Like
Yeah.
I'm up in Northridge, so it's like north. No, it's like yeah, west
Yeah. It's
north,
like Northwest. Yeah.
northwest, northwest is better. Yeah. So Valley girl and Valley boy, right here, right now, guys. If you don't know what the Valley is in LA, please Google that. It's we like to use the word like a lot. I'm
We
kidding. We don't.
do. And I actually was recently told by someone, they were like, you just have this way of talking that is the Valley Girl way. So I don't know. I don't
Take it as
know
a
if I,
compliment.
I
Absolutely.
I do. I always try to. I mean, there's no other way to take it.
Yeah, exactly. Um, how different are you guys? What do you guys do in Metastage, right?
Yes.
Megastage
So,
from Pixar.
oh yeah. So Metastage, when when I met Christina, we were talking about this technology, and she basically, identified, along with many others in the XR and virtual reality space, that there is a challenge of, in creating quality content for immersive technology like virtual reality and augmented reality, of getting real quality, true human performances inside of those technologies without, sinking into the uncanny valley that, human representation tends to fall into when you're doing something like animation of a facial rig or motion capture. I definitely notice it. I When you see when you're like watching a film, and then suddenly there's this big visual effects scene and a human face is talking, but there's something just a little bit strange about it. They call that they call that dipping into the uncanny valley, where you know something is wrong, you can't quite place it, but the feeling of watching it is a little bit uncomfortable and strange. And so volumetric capture is this, it's been developing, I would say, meaningfully over the last 10 years. And Metastage had the opportunity to work with the Microsoft Mixed Reality Capture Studios.
Mm-hmm.
And their technology is really, it's kind of this nexus between extremely high quality, visual data with a highly compressed, video format that's very flexible. It can go into any kind of device. It can be streaming on a mobile device. It can be downloaded into a high-end VR headset. Um, and and still, even though it's so tiny, it still maintains this incredible visual quality, that, up to 4K textures and 60,000 polygons for a full body mesh. And
Body
so,
mesh, yeah, I looked that up. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I watched a video of Pixar doing the body mesh, but that's for animation, not people. You guys are doing it for people,
Exactly.
so
I mean,
that's
a mesh, for anyone who isn't familiar,
mhm.
is basically like, if you imagine, real life sculpting, you might start with a kind of a maquette or like a structure that you can shape from chicken wire or any kind of like that kind of wire mesh to create a frame. And then over that, you can put whatever your material is. That's one method of doing it. But that was the framework from which 3D modelers and sculptors built out their software. So inside of a 3D modeling platform or a 3D modeling software, you might start with what's called a mesh, and it might just look like a chicken wire, ball that has a little like four shaped polygons or maybe triangles, and from there you can kind of build up and
Move it,
sculpt
mix it.
and change.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, it's kind of like the basis um, of all 3D, like 3D objects and assets. And there are different ways of doing it. There's like, I would argue there are two primary ways, which is that chicken wire mesh way, or there's a way that's like point clouds, where it's tons and tons of tiny little points inside of 3D
I think I
space.
watched the video on point clouds.
It's really interesting. Both ways have their advantages and their use cases. And generally, yeah, our technology uses a mesh instead of point clouds because it's much easier to compress. It's much easier to integrate into a bigger creative pipeline. So for Metastage, a lot of the clients that we work with are creative, directors
Hollywood.
or artists or Hollywood. Yeah, Hollywood working in these engines that have like friendly plugins and that can allow them to make an entire, virtual 3D environment around the human assets, and then either view that, go inside of that environment in a VR headset, or make a film out of it, a 2D film using virtual cameras, or build, a mobile app out of it so that you can watch a hologram of, so I don't, Lady Gaga on your phone and like dance alongside her. So the primary difference I would say between, volumetric capture and like what we do in a studio like Pixar. I mean, first of all, Pixar is like a huge, gigantic, film production studio. I know. And they focus on animation techniques and animation pipelines for feature films that are stylized, in that beautiful Pixar magical way.
That is
Um,
natural.
yeah, I mean, they do beautiful work, and hopefully one day Metastage will work with them.
Sure.
But what Metastage focuses on is real life representation of humans doing an actual performance without animation, without motion capture. So when you walk onto a motion capture stage, they might have you put on a green suit or a black suit, and they'll put motion trackers on different parts of your body. And so the motion capture cameras are tracking the movement of your elbow joint,
How
and
many
your,
cameras?
it depends.
Depends, right?
Yeah, well, for a motion capture stage, it can really vary a lot, from like 10 cameras to like, 50 cameras. But all of that being said, when you walk onto Metastage, there's no special suit you have to put on. There are no motion trackers. You walk
Mhm.
on just as you, Fahim, in your outfit that you're wearing right now with your hair. I would walk on just like this, just like me, and we will record you from 106 cameras from
Wow.
every possible angle all around and above you,
Mhm.
and then take all of that recorded data and process it into basically a virtual digital avatar of that exact performance. So you can imagine, for something like, let's say, like Barack Obama, wants to give a speech, at like the Democratic convention, and he wants to do it holographically or have some kind of,
Star
additional.
Wars style.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to animate someone who's well known because anyone watching them can see that uncanniness. You would want to have something that's a true, real representation of that person. And so volumetric capture is really perfect for that because he can just go in, give his speech, we process it and compress it, and then it can be viewed by millions of people on their mobile devices, on their AR headsets.
Do you
um,
know how you guys are transferring the data?
it varies. There are a lot of new ways. I mean, it's a good question.
Like
And
it's not, you guys are not doing the software aspect of it. That's provided by Microsoft. Is that what you said?
yes, so for this volumetric capture technology, we basically, Microsoft has spent the last 10 years developing this specific volumetric capture
Mm-hmm.
technology. But they're not, a commercial production studio, so they have commercial partners all over the world. And we are the premier commercial partner of that technology, in the like in the Western Hemisphere,
How cool is
or I
that?
should say in North America, not the
Yeah, but
Western
you guys
Hemisphere.
are in LA. You guys are Hollywood. You're repping Hollywood at this point, okay?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
best
and that
wishes.
was thank you. Yes, yes, we are. It's a very strategic location to have because
Exactly.
it's definitely a hub for entertainment and, like myriad other industries. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
So who was your favorite guest? I'd be honest.
Well, one that's fresh in my mind actually is we just last week did a production with a woman named Amelie Holmstrom, and she is a 94-year-old Holocaust survivor.
Wow.
She came over with her two sisters, triplets. She was rescued from an internment camp, basically, and basically just made a life for herself after the war. And she came on. We did an initial recording of her when we had first launched, and at that time she shared with us some of her life lessons, her hopes and dreams for the planet and for society, advice for young people. And we wanted to just kind of culminate that with one more session with her where she actually talked about her experience in the war, just so we have, that full picture of her and her life. And so she came last week, and it was wonderful. It was really just a true testament for how powerful this kind of volumetric capture technology can be, because future generations will be able to view what she's to view her and her life essence. Not only, they could watch it as a 2D video, but also, you can imagine, like, sit inside of a virtual 3D space with her and really feel her,
It's telling you the story, right?
telling
Like
exactly.
grandmothers tell us stories when we're trying to sleep, when we're
Yeah,
little, right?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I would say, right now that I love that.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Do you think there's gonna be like a library? Like we have YouTube. This is gonna go
Mm.
on YouTube. Um, are we gonna have a library where we're gonna have all these, people's recordings where we can like put our headsets on and experience them? Or do you think this is gonna be more commercialized and whenever there's like a recording of this sort, it's gonna be under a license or production and only their production video game movie will be showing or showcasing those people you're recording?
Do you mean in general or for the project I just spoke about
No, in
specifically?
general, in general.
Well, that is a really interesting question. And I
Yeah.
think since this technology is so, far on the bleeding edge of any kind of like media representation in an immersive space, that we're kind of just figuring that out as we go. I mean, I would say, like, think about it, in the same way that you think about film or, film and photography. There are images that are very heavily protected with licenses and,
Yeah.
that not everybody can use, only a select number of people can use. And then there are images like stock photography that can be purchased and licensed by anybody. So it really is just kind of like that. And that's sort of the amazing thing about it, except unlike those two formats, this format has an entirely other way of interacting with people.
So I had to just ask you how somebody in the industry or somebody leading the industry like you sees the future. Um, so this is geared towards like people who might be going into the tech industry or thinking about a job, career, college major. Um, so let's say they are really excited about what you do. I'm pretty sure there are plenty of people trying to get into the AR VR industry, which is also called XR. What is like the pathway or what should they be studying? And yeah, why don't we start with that? And I'll ask you the other question. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would just, I guess, start with saying that when I was in school, I was not encouraged to pursue STEM. I was really intimidated by, even though I loved science and technology, I was very intimidated by it as a field,
Mhm.
and I thus leaned more toward a creative um, career path. I ended up doing photography and working a lot, becoming sort of a like a Photoshop eccentric kind of photographer, and I think that what was missing in my education and introduction to STEM was the fact that you can be an artist and that there are so many intersections between art and technology, and one cannot exist on a commercial level without the other, I think. And so, you know, if you
Well, Apple
are
made a
interested in
fortune.
pursuing
Yeah, Apple made a fortune marketing all the products to the artist. Apple does
Oh
that.
yeah, I
Like,
mean, and they were smart to do so.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, I
Exactly.
cut you off. Go ahead.
But really, no, exactly. I mean, exactly right. And I could speak to people who are like me, who are maybe in a creative field but love science. I would encourage you to, one hard skill, especially for anyone looking to go into virtual reality, augmented reality, virtual production, which, if you've seen The Mandalorian recently, the potential is incredible.
I'm
I would
missing out.
encourage you to learn. Yes, you have to see if I have. I mean, even if you haven't seen the show, watch the behind, the
Behind
making
the
of,
scene.
because it's wonderful and fascinating.
I just finished The
Um,
Crown,
I would say
but okay.
learn. Okay, another one. The Crown utilized so much visual effects. Like this, a show like The
That's
Crown
right.
or Queen's Gambit, they use these like
Queen's
invisible
Gambit.
visual effects that are just amazing with compositing. So all of that, like you can almost guarantee that like
Like,
any
it's my
fiction
aesthetic.
film or
There's
TV
something
series.
called aesthetic online right now. Kids are doing it. And I figured out The Crown and Queen's Gambit have my aesthetic, which is, I think, light academia. I don't know, like a genre
Yes. Well,
of
that
your
totally makes sense. Yes.
personal genre. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we digressed.
That totally makes sense. Yeah, and I would say learn Unity. Unity is a real-time rendering engine. learn Unreal, which is another real-time rendering engine and, game development company or
So these
software.
are softwares.
Um,
Okay. Okay.
Unreal, these are softwares, and both of these softwares, I cannot tell you, like everyone I know is looking for developers who know these
Okay.
softwares. So
Second
if you're
question
looking
was
for something like
how
right
much
away,
are they gonna get paid if they join this industry?
well, it's a question. I mean, I would say like, it depends on your skill level, it depends on your reel, and your experience.
Experience.
If you're just starting out, I would say like, and it depends on where you are, obviously, in the company. So I wouldn't want to say exactly, what a salary would be, but I would say like, if I were just graduating from college with an, a beautiful reel in Unity or Unreal and a portfolio that I felt proud of, you could start at a pretty like cushy salary for a new graduate living in a place like, Los Angeles or New
LA is
York.
expensive though. Yeah, it's very expensive.
Very. But the advantage of working virtually and digitally is that you can be remote. So you
Exactly.
could work
Work
for
from
a
home.
company in Los Angeles and live, in the desert, Bakersfield, somewhere
Yeah. Yeah.
you wanted to,
Yeah.
or Florida.
And so something for doing this, really appreciate it. And feel free to hit up or anything, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fahim. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.